Okay, so we're in the Photoshop workspace. And this is what you will see whenever you create or open a document. We're going to start from the bottom right, which is right over here. And remember when we said that Photoshop is made of layers? That's just how it works. So every little detail you add, it is created in a new layer. Right now we have our background layer that in the previous lesson we chose it to be white. So I'm going to unlock that so I can work with it. If it's locked, I cannot add anything onto it. You can see that I could not use the brush tool because the layer is locked. And the reason we would lock it is because we don't want it to be moving around when we're working on other layers. And it will make more sense in the upcoming lessons once you see it in action. So I'm going to unlock this right now so we can start working on it. Now that it's unlocked, I can draw things on it and work with it. So now I have one layer, right? So I'm going to create, let's try to draw a face, okay? And now let's say I want to add eyelashes for this face. I'm going to zoom in. And if I make eyelashes and I messed it up, right? And I'm going to use the eraser tool and I just want to erase the the eyelashes. I'm going to choose a hard round. It's going to be hard to do that because I'm also affecting the background color and I will delete my eye as well. So in the end, I'm not really able to only delete the eyelashes. Then I would have to go back in with a white brush, color that area again, and it would just take forever. So let me hit Ctrl Z to undo what I'm doing. So if this became longer and I want to delete that, I would also delete the background. And again, I would have to paint it back white and it would just take a lot of time. So let me hit Ctrl Z and undo that. And also the face. So what we can do to avoid that constant struggle of deleting, erasing, and then painting it back is to create separate layers. So if I'm going to draw a face with a white background and details such as eyelashes, I would have to create separate layers to make things easier for me. Now what that means is that the first layer, layer 0, is my background. I want my background to, let's say, I want it to be like a pink color. Let's make it like a light pink. Okay, this is my background color. Now I want to draw a face on it. I will create a new background. You should see this is layer 0, layer 1. You can also name this layer by double clicking on the name it background. And I'm going to name layer 1 face. So now I'm going to draw a face. Gonna go to my brush tool, choose maybe black, and I'm going to create just some rough shapes to make a face. And there we are. And now if I made a mistake and I want to delete it, I'm not affecting the background and I'm only working with the face layer. And then I can go back and draw it better, somewhat better. And now this is a separate layer. I can even move this around if I want it to be in the center, if I want it to be in the corner, and things are just a lot easier for me. Now if I want to draw eyelashes for this face, I would create a new layer. Call it eyelashes. And now if I again get my brush tool, draw my eyelashes, and let's say I draw them too big, it looks like a Y. I want to delete my eyelashes. I'm only deleting my eyelashes and not the eye. Then I would go back in with a smaller brush size and draw my eyelashes. Really accurate size. Okay, so there's my eyelashes. And again, if it's not placed correctly, I will be able to move it. If I want to delete the bottoms, let's say, I will only be deleting the eyelashes. I'm moving this back. Now, the thing about the lock thing that we mentioned, let's say I'm trying to move the eyelashes, but I'm always ending up moving this by accident because, it gets blended in here. I'm going to create a new layer. Let's add a line here as well. So when layers get mixed in like this, and it's hard to tell which layer is which part, and I want to move the eyelashes, but I end up, hold on, but I end up moving this, for example. And I don't want this layer to move, so I'm going to put it back in here. Or I don't want to keep accidentally selecting the face. In order to avoid that, I can lock my layers. You can see I even messed up the whole structure. Going to keep hitting Control Z. Okay. I'm going to go in my face layer, hit the lock button, and the same thing for layer 1. Let's just call it lines. And I'm going to lock this too. Now, even if by accident I selected this, I cannot move. So again, this saves me a lot of time and I'm not accidentally selecting random things. So this is how the layer system works. Another thing is the positioning and the order of the layers. Let me unlock these. What that means is just like how you would have books, and if you put the blue book on top of the red book and you looked at it from above, the blue color is what you're going to see first, and if you move that blue color, you're going to see the red color. It's the same logic here. So on top of my eyelashes, let's draw a circle. Let's go with this red. If I draw this, create a new layer, go for like a blue, and I draw this. Let's be more accurate. Okay, it's close enough. I'm seeing the blue color first because it is placed, although I didn't draw another layer. Let's keep layer 1 for this, and for the second layer, layer 2, let's draw the blue one. Okay, because layer 2 is above layer 1, I'm seeing the blue first. If I bring layer 2 below layer 1, I'm seeing the pink first. And again, reverse it, it's the same thing. And even if I bring this to the side, the blue is on top of the pink. If I bring layer 2, the blue layer, let's just name it blue so it's less confusing. Layer 1 is pink. Okay, I bring blue under pink. Pink is going to go on top. Bring blue above pink is going to be above pink. And that's just how the layers work. So because blue and pink are also on top of all of our backgrounds, like background layer, face layer, eyelashes, it's also going to be on top of them. But if I hit Control and like select both of them, bring them below face, it's going to go behind my layer. So that's just how the logic works. It's really simple. Now let me select my top layer and hold Shift and select my bottom layer, not my background. I'm selecting all of them and I'm going to delete them because I no longer need them. To do that, you can either select all of them or the layers that you want and hit backspace on your keyboard, or you could hit this trash can option. It's going to ask you delete selected layers, hit yes, and they're all gone except the layer that we did not select. So that's how you delete layers. Another thing is that you can create new layers like we talked about. The square with a plus in it creates new layers. You can see I'm just making empty layers. So you can see they're all transparent because there's nothing in them. But if I draw things, you can see that there's this pink line on this one, this purple line on this one. And now they're not really empty anymore. Another thing that you could do is if I wanted copies of one layer, like I want multiple pink lines, I will select that layer, hit Control J, and I've copied that layer. You can see layer 5 copy. And if I move this away, you can see that it's two identical shapes because we copied layer 5. And that's how you just copy a layer. Another thing that you can do if you want to make things more tidy, and you want to group things, you want to keep things organized. I'm going to group two layers together. So I'm going to go on the first layer that I want, hold Control and select my second layer, or if I have more than a bunch of layers, if I want to group everything, select the top layer, come all the way down, hold Shift, and select the bottom layer. This way I'm selecting all of my layers. And oops, yeah. But I'm just going to select these 2 layers. And next to our square create a new layer icon, there's this folder icon. And what that means is that that is going to group the selected layer. So let's click on that. And now we have group 1. Open the group, we have both our layers. But now they're within one group. So if I turn off this eyeball, and this eyeball just indicates the visibility of that layer. Turn it off, they're both turning off. Turn it back on, and I'm going to open the group. I'm only going to turn off one of them. You can see that it's only one at a time. Turn off the group, both of them will disappear. So that's what groups mean. You can also name the group. Let's call it pink lines. There we are. And now I have a group called pink lines. Another thing that you can do is, let me turn this off and this one too. If I go to layer 3, let's choose a different color. I'm going to create like a blue line, and on layer 4 I'm going to do select a different color and just like start from here and just make another shape. Now if I want these two to be together, I don't want them to be a separate thing, I don't want them to be a group, I can merge the 2 layers together. What that means is that I'm going to select one of the layers, hold Control, get the other one, right click, merge layers. And now they're one layer. So they're no longer separate, they're one layer, and I can call it blue and yellow. That's one singular layer. Just like that. That's how you merge shapes. Another thing is that if you wanted to, let's like bring this purple guy on top. Oops, I actually took it in another group. If I want to add a layer to another group, I will just click on the layer and bring it onto my group. And when you first place it in the group, it's going to go on the top layer. Then you can just adjust it like you would normally do. Let's just keep it that way. Now let's say this right here is my artwork and I want all of them to be merged in one singular layer. So that means we have to merge everything together. First of all, you can try this method of grouping all those layers, then right-clicking and merge group. That way we have one layer consisting of all of those previously made layers. And if you want everything to be merged, I'm going to turn this off because I want the background to be separate. Let me also draw something in layer 1 just so everything is filled. Let's do like a random background color. I'm going to turn off the background color. Then I'm going to hold Control, select all of them, right click, and we have this option to merge visible. Now this will only merge the things that are visible. If you remembered, we turned off our background layer because we don't want it to be merged, and now it's not visible. So when we right click and hit merge visible, it's going to merge everything except for our invisible background layer. Turn this back on, we have 2 layers and they're both separate. So this was my background and this was my colorful layer. So let's bring them back. So that's just how the layers work. And another thing that you can do is work with how visible those layers are. And that's by working with the opacity. And the fill as well. Right now you can see that it's at 100%. If I bring it down, it's turning less visible and it's fading away. If I bring it to 0, there's nothing there. And fill also works with that. It determines how much of those colors are filling that layer. And if you bring it to 0, then nothing is there. This would be really helpful if you're, let me create a layer below this. If I'm trying to draw something below this and I can't really see what's going on, I can lower the opacity to where I can see the layer before it. So I'm going to grab my brush again. Let's choose a new color. Let's go for this red. And I want to, let's say, trace the outside of this. Because the opacity is low, I can see where I'm painting. But if the opacity of the pink lines layer was full, then I can't quite see what I'm doing. So bring it lower, and I'm going to use the edges to trace my shape, my really random shape. Okay, I accidentally drew on the actual pink lines layer. Let's go back to layer 1 and then just trace our random shape. Okay, and then now I have a separate layer that has traced our main shape. Let me just Control Z. Okay, bring the opacity back up. We have different locks. You can see I added this lock. What this means is that I can still draw it, but I'm only drawing within that layer. But if I turn that off, I'm getting out of that section. Let me undo that. Okay. So without the lock, if I want to draw a line, it's going to go outside. But if I lock it using this lock, it's only going to be inside the shape. This is really helpful if you're drawing something and you just want to color the shoe, for example. You would use this lock to only color inside the selection. Let's unlock that. Undo that. Okay. Now notice the colors between these two locks. The first lock, it's only the outline, and that was the lock we talked about where you can only color the inside. You cannot, you can move the shape, but you cannot draw outside of the selection. Now the difference with the other lock is that with this lock, let me turn this layer off, you cannot draw on it and you cannot move it. So it's like a fully controlled layer. You cannot do anything to it unless you unlock it. So let's bring this back on. Another lock that we have, let me turn these two off, turn this back on, and like draw something else. Let's draw like a heart. Okay, let's come down. We have this brush lock, and when you select this, when you use the brush lock, that means you can do anything except for drawing on top of it. So that means you can move it, right? But you cannot draw on it. You can see that tells us because it's locked, we cannot draw on it. And we can't do anything to it, but we can move it. That's something in between the other locks. Then we have another lock. Let me turn that off. Is the move lock. So now I cannot move this layer, the hard layer. I'm ending up moving the other one. Let me turn this off. But I can still draw on it, but it will be outside of the layer. So I cannot move this layer, as you can see, but I can make adjustments on it. I can erase it, but unlike this layer, it can be drawn outside of the line. Let's undo that. Now another cool thing is, let me turn all of our messy layers back on, is that you can choose a combination of these locks for each layer. So I can choose this lock and this lock for this one layer. And this is really helpful if you wanted to do multiple things for one layer. And overall, locks are pretty helpful. And this is just how the layers work in Photoshop. Again, layers is probably the most important thing in Photoshop. And once you understand how they work and how they function, so I hope you guys learned how to use layers, how to use these locks, the opacity and all that, and that it was helpful for you. I'll see you guys in the next lesson where we'll go in the other parts of the Photoshop workspace. I'll see you guys then.